Topics now, slightly to college football. We're going to go ahead and talk about the big hot story in college football, and that's the swirling allegations around Cam Newton and his family requesting money to play at Mississippi State. Now, there aren't necessarily allegations that he received money to go play at Auburn, but in your eyes, Devin, do you think that it's smart to let him to continue to play, or do you think Gene Chizik should sit him and try and salvage, I guess, some maybe sanctions that could be put on Auburn for having an illegal player?
I think Gene Chizik should, I think he needs to take what's been given to him. He's kind of been able to take Cam Newton, and have that be his meal ticket, to take a team that really was not going to be a national title contender, without a Cam Newton transferring in. I think he needs to go ahead and see what happens with this whole deal, see if he can get a national title out of this, and maybe these stories, maybe these allegations aren't true. Maybe these are just some bitter Mississippi State people, or employees.
But do you really think that there can be this many allegations and have none of them be true?
Well, I can say even if they're not all true, it's possible that there's not enough proof to prove that he has done all these things. So, I think Gene Chizik should hope that either it's not true, or that they cannot find enough evidence to, convict Cam Newton of any wrongdoing.
Well, now, Aaron, do you think that this is more on Cam? Do you think that this is more on Cam's father? Because most of the allegations are saying that Cam's father was the one saying, "Hey, it's a pay-to-play deal." Do you think that this is going to affect him personally, as I guess penalties being held against Cam? Do you think the penalties should be sanctioned against Auburn, or do you think they should be sanctioned against Mississippi State and maybe even the whole SEC?
Well, that will depend on what the final decision, the final facts come out for sure. If Auburn's found guilty for basically paying him, yeah, then Auburn needs to have a serious fine, suspension, and a couple other things. But interesting enough about the situation, it seems to be attacking the system at this point, which is taking some of the smoke off Cam Newton, which could help, because really at first it was intense. It was all on Cam. It was he did this, he took money, and now it's becoming a system-wide issue, which we we're all kind of familiar with in the first place, but it's really exposing it, which is kind of taking some of the pressure off. So I'm really interested to see what's going to happen. If Auburn somehow is not guilty for this, then they're lucky.
They will be lucky. Now, I wanna go ahead and rotate maybe to some other great players that are playing right now in college football. We all know that Cam Newton is a great quarterback, but Devin, outside of Cam Newton, give me your number one quarterback right now in college football. Give me your number one running back and your number one wide receiver.
As first, everything begins and ends with the quarterback, so I'm gonna have to start out with my favorite quarterback right now in college football, and that's Robert Griffin.
Great quarterback
from Baylor. He's not getting as much press because he doesn't play on a national title contender or a team that really has a lot of talent on it overall. But this guy, he's a guy that's very accurate, has a strong arm, and he can run just as fast as any of these guys. He reminds me of a college version of Michael Vick, actually, kind of.
Right.
And then with running back, I'm gonna have to go with Kendall Hunter. He's been consistently over the last couple of years just building up some really nice seasons.
He's a great running back out of Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State, right? And he's in the top 5 in rushing right now. And wide receiver, I'm gonna have to go with Alshon Jeffrey. He's one of the tops as far as yards and touchdowns. And this guy's just a big physical guy that'll just go up and catch anything that the quarterback throws to him.
We did see him absolutely manhandle the Alabama defense when South Carolina played Alabama earlier this year, and South Carolina actually upset number 1 ranked Alabama at that point. Now, Aaron, let's get to your picks. Who do you think is the best quarterback, running back, and wide receiver in college football right now?
I'm going to be real cliche with the quarterback situation. I've got to take Cam. I mean, there's just nothing else to watch. I mean, it's just these man versus boys. Now, for running back, I'm going to take LaMichael James with almost 1,500 yards and 17 touchdowns. The guy exploits holes and takes care of defenses and really shutting down other teams, making it tough to run certain defenses, excuse me. And then as a wide receiver, I like Justin Blackmon is pretty good for Oklahoma State. He's got a lot of yards for a receiver on a team that has a lot more receivers that are doing really well. So for him to show up in the spotlight like that and do what he's doing, means he's putting in the work, and he knows what he's doing out there.
Yeah, Justin Blackman is definitely by far, in my opinion, head and shoulders above all the other receivers in the league. I think he's by far the best wide receiver, and if he could go out right now, he'd be the first receiver taken off the board in the draft. I like Andrew Luck. I don't know how you guys don't like him. I think not only is he the best quarterback in college football right now, I think he's the best pro prospect as well. And I agree with your pick with Michael James for running back. But let's go ahead and get into some bowl projections. We're winding down the college football regular season. We're getting to that time, December, January, when the bowls start. And everyone always cares only about the BCS bowl games. Now, the national championship game, many people right now see Auburn and Oregon going. But Devin, do you really see that matchup happening?
I think that I know that Oregon's going to end up there, just because I don't see a team knocking them off. I thought Oregon State might have a shot, but they're just not looking all that good this season. And I think that Auburn has the ability to beat whoever they face for the rest of the year, but they have to face an Alabama team in the rivalry game, and that's going to be a tough one. And they have a conference championship that they also have to play in. So I think I'm gonna take Oregon and TCU.
Oregon and TCU. Now that would be a matchup I think a lot of folks would like to see, but a lot of folks from the big conferences like the Big Ten, the SEC, and the Big 12 might not like that as much. Now, Aaron, what about you? Who do you see going down in the national championship game?
It's interesting. I think Auburn will be there. They're going to have a tough matchup with South Carolina. I think they'll be there. I think it'll be them and Oregon. Oregon's got a pretty easy schedule, and they'll win out. I agree with Devin that they're going to beat Oklahoma State or Oregon State, excuse me. And so I think it'll be them and Auburn in the BCS championship.
Now let's talk about the Fiesta Bowl, which typically is the Big 12 versus the best team in the Big East. Now, many people don't necessarily like watching this game because who does the Big East have? Really, they have nobody. So do you see Nebraska or Oklahoma State, Devin, coming out for the Big 12?
I would have to say Oklahoma State. Of the two, just because I've been more impressed with their offense. We talked about Justin Blackman earlier, and their quarterback Brandon Whedon. I like what he's been able to bring to the table so far. So Nebraska has not really impressed me as far as what they can do passing the ball. So I'm gonna have to go with Oklahoma State.
Well, Aaron, Pitt is the team that's most likely going to be coming out of the Big East. Do you think that Nebraska or Oklahoma State have I guess more of a chance to beat Pitt than Pitt does to beat them?
I think Oklahoma State has the better chance. They really look like they're a strong passing team, and their running back is doing really well as well. So it's gonna be an interesting matchup. But Nebraska is just not. Their defense has taken a step down because they've lost some key players last season, and their passing game was a problem last season. So I don't think they're going to be strong enough.
Now, Devin, where do you see Boise State winding up? Do you think that they're going to get the at-large bid to go play in the Sugar Bowl? They'll probably play Auburn if Auburn loses to either Alabama or loses to South Carolina in the SEC championship game. Or do you see Auburn winning out and then playing Oregon in the national championship and having LSU get an at-large bid for the SEC and come play Boise State in the Sugar Bowl?
Well, I think if Alabama does manage to do that, which I'm not sure they're going to be able to, but if they do, then I think Boise State would have to get the at-large bid. They've beaten everybody that they've been put up against, and they're in a top 5 ranking position, which they've managed to keep all year, and that's all that you can really ask of them is that they win all the games that they get put into, and I think since I don't think that Auburn's gonna be able to go in there, and win out for the rest of the year. I think that's going to be the matchup in the Sugar Bowl, and I think it's going to be really interesting to watch.
Now, Aaron, what do you think is going to happen if, let's say, Auburn does win out, and then LSU gets in there and plays against Boise State in the Sugar Bowl, and LSU just annihilates Boise State? Do you think this will finally put an end to all this discussion about Boise State being, deserving of a BCS national championship game and all this hoopla about them?
It's definitely going to give us a little more light on how good Boise really is. That's been the ongoing conversation. Is their strength of schedule has really hurt their chances of becoming a big team. So between that matchup, I see LSU. They won't score many points, but they'll be able to slow down Boise State, and it'll be a good defensive matchup, I think, in that respect. But.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, and that's all the time we have for today. So let's go.